Having said I hate doing ranking videos, well, here's another one. Hi, it's Chris and welcome back to another video. I thought today I would try and rank my top 20 favourite punk singles. Now, there's some rules attached to this. The first one is I've got to have a physical copy of it. The second rule is they have to be from 1977, which was the year of punk for me. And the third rule is it's one band, one single. So that was a little bit more challenging with some of the bands. So these are my favourites, not necessarily the most lauded punk singles or my most collectible ones. They are my favourite ones, the ones that take me back to that particular era that I think really fondly of. So I've got a few that are kind of, before I start the top 20, are kind of bubbling under. Not so much bubbling under, more not sure whether or not I should have included them. The first three are American. So we've got Roadrunner by Jonathan Richman. I didn't really know whether or not I should have included that one. If that was generally a contender, it would definitely be in the top 5, I think. Talking Heads, Psycho Killer. Not really punk, is it? But certainly of that era. And the last one, of course, is Marquee Moon by Television, which is definitely of that era, but I'm not sure it really fits. I'm not sure about these two either. So Tom Robinson Band, 2468 Motorway, you know, a classic really of that kind of era, but is it really punk? No, I don't think it is. And I think this band jumped on the bandwagon a little bit. This is a single produced by Nick Lowe. It's only 2 minutes long, and it's She's a Wind Up by Dr. Feelgood. So, you know, a pub rock band who jumped on the bandwagon a little bit of the punk movement. So I haven't included those. And I had to make the decision between 3 stiff singles. So I was thinking about Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll by Ian Dury, and I was thinking about Watching the Detectives by Elvis Costello, but neither of those got into the top 20. So which stiff single made it? Now, at number 20 is a little bit of a cheat actually to start with, because it's the B-side really, and also it's a band that appears later on, but it's under the guise of the Yobs. So this is the alter ego of the band The Boys, and they did, as the Yobs, a couple of Christmas singles, but it's the B-side of Run Rudolph Run that I like the most. Now I remember hearing this B-side in 1977 on the John Peel show, and I absolutely loved it, and I went out and bought it, and this is that copy. It's like a campfire song. It's, you know, nobody loves me, everybody hates me just because I eat worms. It's that song, and it's just brilliant. It's really short, it's just marvellous fun. So that's number 20. Number 19 is one of 3 bands in this pile that I've actually seen live. And so number 19 is Television Screen from the Radiators from Space. Now, this was an Irish band, and they toured with Thin Lizzy, and I saw them actually at Bournemouth Winter Gardens in 1977 on Thin Lizzy's Bad Reputation tour. And kind of an odd support band really. I guess obviously it was the Irish connection. Now the Radiators from Space were Ireland's first punk band. They were certainly the first punk band to get into the charts, the Irish charts, and this is a fantastic song. Now one of the players on here, one of the guitarists actually, Philip Chevron, he went on to play in the Pogues actually, and he played on Rum, Sodomy and Lash, and he also played on If I Fall From Grace, and I think he wrote one of the songs on there actually, which are Thousands Are Sailing, I think it is. But anyway, there's Radiators from Space, and a classic song by them coming in at number 19. It's like, if you can imagine Status Quo playing punk, it's like a punky version of Down Down. Next up is a song that I heard again on John Peel. Most of these singles, that's where I first heard them, and as a result of hearing them, that's when I bought them. And quite a lot of these singles actually are you know, singles that I bought back in 1977. So at number 18 we've got the band from Uxbridge in West London, and that's the Lurkers, and their song Shadow. Now I love this song. It's about a jealous lover who plans to shoot his ex-girlfriend's boyfriend in the legs. You know, it's not particularly nice content, but it's a really, really great song. I love it. They were the first ever band on Beggars Banquet, and this is their debut single, and it made John Peel's Festive 50 in 77, I think, if I remember rightly. So that's number 18. Number 17 is a Scottish band. I think they're from Edinburgh actually, and it's the Rosillos, and this is my favourite song by them actually, My Baby Does Good Sculptures. I've no idea what it's about. So not really a punk band, more of a new wave band obviously, influenced very much by rock and roll, by beat, by garage, by glam, and certainly sci-fi. This is their second single, but the first on Sire Records, and lyrically it's almost sensible. I think they almost became a little bit of a parody of themselves as the years went on, but I love that song. That's number, what number was that? 17. Number 16 is the band Eater and their single Thinking of the USA. This is their second single. Now, I don't know if there's anyone who watches this who's a similar era to me that lived in the Paul Bournemouth area on the south coast of the UK, of England. There was a shop just outside Bournemouth called Armadillo's. It was like a mecca for anyone who liked punk. It was brilliant. What a fantastic record shop. And I remember going in there and hearing this song, which I later found out was I'm So Bored of the USA by The Clash. And I was thumbing through the singles and I saw this one, Thinking of the USA, and I thought that was the one I was hearing, and I didn't ask, I just bought it, and when I got it home I thought, oh, it's not the one, but it's brilliant. Now, Eater take their name from T-Rex lyrics, actually. I don't know which song it is, but it's Tyrannosaurus Rex, the eater of cars, and that's where they took their name. This is their second single. Their first one was Outside View, which is much more collectible, but it's not as good, I don't think, as this one. And it's got the brilliant, I think he plays the drums, that's the Degenerate. What a fantastic name. I think his real name was Roger, which isn't very punk, is it? Apologies to anyone called Roger watching this, but it's not very rock and roll, is it? It was produced, this single, by Dave Goodman, who did the Wessex Studio and Denmark Street sessions for the Pistols round about just about a year before, actually. So there we go. There's Eater, Thinking of the USA. Coming in at 15 is a band who are named after a Stooges song, the band of Penetration. They're from County Durham up north in England. Female fronted, Pauline Murray is the singer. This is their debut single, Don't Dictate, and it's, I think, their best single by miles and an absolute punk classic. I really love that song, Don't Dictate by Penetration. Next up, I wish I had this in a picture sleeve, but I didn't, and I remember buying this actually in sort of 77, 78. Female fronted band again at number 14. This is X-Ray Specs and Oh Bondage Up Yours. There's a version of this on the Roxy live album. It's quite a rough version of it, actually, a very early version, and this was recorded, I think, after that. It was written after seeing the Sex Pistols, and it's a real call for liberation, actually. And the unusual thing about it is it contains a saxophone, which is fairly unusual for this sort of music, really. And the person who played it was a girl called Lara Logic. I guess that's her stage name. And she was 16 at the time. So fantastic single, their best single, or their best song, I think. Coming at number 13 is the Stiff single. So, there was Ian Dury and Elvis Costello, but I chose this one, Reckless Eric, Whole Wide World. Written in 74, recorded in 77. Reckless Eric was part of the original Stiff Records roster alongside Nick Lowe, Ian Dury and so on. And this is actually produced by Ian Dury, and Nick Lowe plays bass and guitar on Whole Wide World, and the drummer Steve Goulding, he also wrote, alongside Nick Lowe's song, I Love the Sound of Breaking Glass. So I love this song. It's a brilliant song. Lightning Seeds, I think, covered it, as did Proclaimers, and that's in at number 13. At number 12 is a recent buy, although I've had the album that this single comes from for a very, very long time. It's about losing your virginity, and it's by The Boys at its first time. This is a fantastic single. This actually charted, I believe, and I can understand why. They're a great band. They've got this knack of being punky, but at the same time having quite pop sensibilities. They've got some real melodies and hooks in their songs, but First Time is a classic, and that's at number 12. At number 11, we've got a live single, actually. When I bought this back in 1977, in 77 I was 14, So any band that's called the Vibrators, are just brilliant, aren't they? And I bought it, if nothing else, just to piss my mum off, I think. But anyway, this was a band that were formed in 76. They were the backing band for Chris Spedding quite a lot of the time. Mickey Most from Rat Records signed them to that label, and they produced a single called We Vibrate, which isn't very good, actually. But they also backed Chris Spedding on his song Pogo Dancing, and this is probably their fourth or fifth single. It's live, and I just think it's brilliant. The B-side is called Stiff Little Fingers, which I'm guessing is where that band took their name from. Both the studio versions of these songs are on their debut album. Great stuff. Now we're into the big boys, the top 10. So at number 10, And I toyed with Complete Control, but I did go with White Riot. I think this is marvellous. I love the cover. I love the kind of siren at the start. It was so edgy at the time. It's different to the LP version, at least in the UK it is. I think the single version in the UK is the same as the album version in the US. The siren at the start. It's a song about class, about race. But it isn't advocating race war. It was inspired by the Notting Hill riots, actually. And interestingly enough, on here it's got 1977 on the back of Joe Strummer's boiler suit. That was airbrushed in because it did have hate and war on there, I think, originally. And Joe Strummer, he actually lived just up the road from me, actually, in a little hamlet called Broomfield here in Somerset. So great stuff. That's at number 10. At number 9... I don't know if this is my favourite song by them. It probably isn't, actually, but it's the one that I remember the most from 77 with that amazing bass line. And of course we're talking about Peaches by the Stranglers with its double A side, Go Buddy Go, on the other side, a non-album track actually, which is brilliant as well. But I love Peaches. It had a kind of an unusual level of kind of sexual language and innuendo for the time, which made it kind of appealing when you're 14, you know. Hugh Cornwell on here sounds quite lecherous and a bit macho, but it's definitely of its time, you know, when it's got Oh Shit on it. And I think that was changed for the radio to Oh No, and Oh What a Bummer was changed to Oh What a Summer, and all that kind of stuff. But a wonderful track, and I love that. I think originally it might have come out in a picture sleeve. I've certainly got a reissue of it in a picture sleeve. I think the picture sleeve is really rare. Now, number 8 is a track that I remember listening to loads on John Peel. He loved it and he played it to death. This is edited down from a 6.5 minute album version, actually, and it's the debut single from pub rock band The Motors, Dancing the Night Away. This is just brilliant. They were formed in 76 from the ashes of some sort of pub rock bands. Just a brilliant band. This is their debut single. As I said, it's edited from probably well over 6 minutes on the album. The 12 inch is about 5 minutes. This is about 3.5, I think. It was produced by Mutt Lange, who obviously went on to very, very bigger things. But prior to this, produced Heat Treatment by Graham Parker, and I think a couple of albums by City Boy. So Dancing the Night Away is my number 8. Cheap Trick did a cover of that. It's bloody awful, but they did a cover. At number 7, we've got a real new wave classic. It's the one that always makes it onto all the compilations. And I think it made it into the top 10. It's incredibly melodic and poppy, but it's just brilliant. And they changed their name, actually, for this single. It's The Rods, as were Eddie and the Hot Rods. And this is Do Anything You Want to Do. It's from the album Life on the Line, which is a great album, but this is just a classic new wave single. Brilliant stuff. At number 6, we've got a classic punk single, UK band. I remember seeing them on Top of the Pops and going straight out to buy it. It's their second single, actually. The first one was on Stiff Records, called One Chord Wonders. And it's The Adverts, and it's Gary Gilmore's Eyes. This is a song about getting Gary Gilmore's eyes in a transplant. Now, Gary Gilmore was a convicted and executed double murderer whose corneas were donated. So someone somewhere ended up looking through Gary Gilmore's eyes. Brilliant single. The bassist on this was a lady called Gay Advert, who, with her Pandaride makeup and her leather jacket, she was kind of like the first female pop star, really. Fantastic stuff. They were from Devon. I think they relocated to London, but I think originally they were from Oakhampton and Bideford, which is probably about as unpunk as you can get. But anyway, great stuff. Number 5, so we're into the top 5, serious stuff here. Again, this is a song I remember seeing on Top of the Pops and going out straight away and buying it. It's the mod influence anthem In the City, Jam's debut single. This is just marvellous. There is so much energy in this single. I absolutely love it. I like the album, actually. I know it's not as good as the others, but I love the rawness of it. The actual album contains my favourite Jam song, actually, Art School, which opens up the album, and I think this opens up side 2 possibly, but it's just a masterpiece. I think it's brilliant punk single. Love it. And number 4 is slightly different, actually, because this is a song that possibly you wouldn't expect in the top 20, because it's a little bit rarer, possibly. It's the Heartbreakers, American band from New York, I think. Brilliant band, great track. This is called One Track Mind. So it's got a fantastic drum opening, which is very New Rose-like, actually. But it's just really pounding, raucous, buoyant, melodic. It's just brilliant. It's how punk should sound. Fantastic stuff. At number 3, we've got Ozband, The Saints, and I think their best song, this is This Perfect Day. Remember buying this in 77 again. I saw this on Top of the Pops, absolutely fantastic. Different version to the album, I think they re-recorded it for Eternally Yours, but this is raw, it's ferocious. It's probably one of the most ferocious punk singles to chart, actually. Absolute masterpiece, and that's in at number 3. Now, the top 2 are kind of a bit interchangeable for me, so I'm going today with number 2 being the Ramones and Rockaway Beach. This is an absolute bona fide classic. So Rockaway Beach is named after a beach near New York where Dee Dee Ramone used to escape from the city to. It's a real fantastic example of surf punk. It's incredible. It's got a fantastic hook, really good melody, never ever loses its sparkle over all these years. It's just 2 minutes of exquisite beauty. It's just brilliant. It's carefree, it's humorous, it's melodic. You know, chewing out a rhythm on my bubble gum, the sun is out and I want some. Just fantastic stuff. And number 1 has only got to be one band for me, although I did potentially have the Ramones in at number 1. So I toyed with 3 singles for this last band, and this one got my vote, not because it's the best song possibly, but it's because it's the one that takes me back to that time the most. It was one of my favourite songs in that era, and it still remains one of my favourite songs, and it's Pretty Vacant by the Sex Pistols, their 3rd single. So preceding this, God Save the Queen and Anarchy in the UK, both of which are fantastic, both of which are much more powerful than this. But I think this is just amazing. I remember seeing this on Top of the Pops. It may well have been the same night as the Saints, actually. And I just wondered how John Lydon was getting away with pronouncing vacant in the way that he did, with the emphasis on the 2nd syllable in a particular way. It's just a wonderful song. If you go on YouTube and you search out a live reunion concert from about 96, 97, when they play at Brixton in London, they open the show with Pretty Vacant, and it is so powerful. It's, as I said, it's not as powerful as Anarchy or God Save the Queen, but it's really very special. And I think Malcolm McLaren had been to the States and come back and said, look, I want you to write something like Richard Hell and the Voidoids, Blank Generation. And they came up with this. It's mainly written by Glenn Matlock, and interesting enough, he says the riff in this is inspired by SOS from ABBA. So there you go, there's my top 20. Tell me what you think in the comments below. What would you have in your top 20? What's your top 5, your top 10, your top 20? What's number 1? Put it in the comments below. And thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for subscribing. And if you don't subscribe, click on the button, more the merrier. Thanks very much, and we'll be back sometime soon with another video. Cheers.